and Yali Madat, everyone. My name is Parviz Laka, and I'm here to provide you with this week's Jamaati Institutional Update. So we hope you enjoyed last Saturday's programme, where we heard from the Chairperson of the Aga Khan Health Board, Akbar Dala, and also from Alwaeza's Alija Ghulam Abbas on looking for silver linings in difficult times. Now, I'm sure you found this incredibly useful during the current pandemic and lockdown. Well, we ended last week with yet another trip down memory lane just to bring a few smiles to your faces as we rewatched the opening of the Aga Khan Centre in London back in June 2018. Now, this was opened by Maulana Hazar Imam and by Prince Charles, and Maulana Hazar Imam's family were also present at this event. So, as is usual, before I share the programme for tonight, here are the highlights and some of the exciting events taking place in the week ahead. So tomorrow, Sunday, the Golden Club session will continue to take place at 12:30 p.m. And then on Tuesday, the other Parviz continues to keep us moving and gaining strength with her chair and standing exercises at 11 a.m. And then, on Thursday, we have yet another really busy Thursday with a number of activities which you can find on Al Sahar and on the social media pages, etc. So it starts with the social circle at 11 a.m. this Thursday. And then we've got weekly Bolly Beats. So if you're a beginner, you might want to join at 8 and 9 p.m. for the beginners class. Or you can join at 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. for those who wish to join the intermediate class and are a little bit more well-versed, shall we say, with the Bollywood moves. And that brings us on to next Saturday, when we'll hear our next Sing-Along Saturday on social media showcasing musical talent from across the Jamaat. And that's going to be followed by our next Jamaati evening programme at 7 p.m. right here. So this evening, we're going to continue to hear from the various boards that we have. And tonight's speaker is the chairperson of the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board, Salim Janmohamed. Now, as you know, we're currently in a bit of a crisis, and what the Economic Planning Board has to say is probably highly relevant to your economic planning in the months ahead. So this is well worth a listen. And this will be followed by an inspirational ITREB talk by Alwaeza Dr. Shogufa Mir Malekyar. And she'll be speaking all the way from Germany. She's going to talk to us about our values in everyday life, which I think is a conversation that takes place around the dinner table or just generally in the homes of every Ismaili. I know it certainly does in mine. So this talk is in German, with English subtitles, and you'll be able to follow what she's saying through the subtitles. So thank you, Alwaeza Dr. Shogufa Mir Malekyar, for that. Now this programme will finish with yet another trip down memory lane, just to bring the smiles to your faces and be a bit of a throwback to times when things were a little more normal. And we'll be rewatching the 25th anniversary of the Ismaili Centre London back in 2010. So we hope once again that you enjoyed tonight's programme, and we very much look forward to seeing you again next Saturday night, right here. So in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and Ya Ali Madad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear brothers and sisters, Ya Ali Madad. At the onset, I would like to offer my humble shukrana to Maulana Hazar Imam for his guidance during these difficult times. Over the next few minutes, I will share the work that the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board for the United Kingdom jurisdiction has undertaken. This work is in support of the Jamaat during these times in order to try and carry out Maulana Hazar Imam's emphasis on remaining strong and preparing to build when this crisis passes. We are going to leave 2020 in a far different place than how we entered. We are now in a recession, and the road ahead is challenging. While September numbers show growth, we do not know when we will enjoy the same levels of economic activity as before. Until the COVID-19 pandemic is brought under control, we are all likely to face some form of continued disruption and uncertainty in our daily lives. Core to our mission at the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board is a constant focus on helping to improve the quality of life for our Jamaat. We want to do our best to help the Jamaat navigate these trying times. Our team of more than 80 volunteers are here to assist you. We ardently believe that by working together and supporting one another, we will give ourselves the best chance to come out stronger and more resilient than before. At the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board, we target our efforts on 3 key areas. 1, supporting all employment-related issues. 2, supporting all business and entrepreneurs. 3, supporting the enhancement of the entire Jamaat's financial literacy. Since the start of the pandemic, our employment support team has been particularly active and is sensitive to the changing work environment. As such, the team has developed a series of best practice guides for job seekers and employees, which you can find on the .ismaili/UK. This covers critical topics such as cover letters and CVs, interview practice, how to get the most out of LinkedIn, working from home, and understanding redundancy law. JobSpot, our internal posting site, is constantly updated and caters to those seeking employment or wishing to change roles. We encourage you to regularly visit JobSpot, which contains details of companies who are currently hiring. For the youth members of our Jamaat who are unsure of career paths, we have developed the Insight into Career series. To date, professions such as law and medicine have been discussed, and first-hand experiences shared. Over 100 participants have attended panel talks and networking opportunities thus far, leading to numerous offers of internship and work experience opportunities. More insight into career events are being arranged. This year, more than ever, has reinforced the role that technology is playing in our economy. To assist those seeking to improve their technology skills, the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board launched a web coding vocational training course. This featured live video tutorials, third-party certification, and vibrant community activity. Over 600 registrations were received, including 20% from our brothers and sisters in Europe and internationally. We are committed to focusing on technology's evolving role and are therefore planning further vocational boot camps. Please look out for more details on these initiatives. On the business front, our teams and alliances have been hard at work providing support to each other. Indeed, Maulana Hazrat Imam has encouraged us to, quote, turn our focus to rebuilding and in some cases repositioning, such that when this crisis passes, we can focus our efforts towards building a stronger future for the global Jamaat, unquote. With this in mind, in tandem with the alliances, those in the same industries are sharing ideas and best practice, including how to access government support, create liquidity, and repositioning their businesses. These exchanges are largely held online and in partnership with external experts and the Jamaat, as recently demonstrated by Spectrum, our Care Home Alliance, and Oksana, our Hotel and Hospitality Alliance. Additionally, this extends to other sectors including pharmaceuticals, law, dentistry, commercial and private landlords, and media and communications. Furthermore, guidance is available to all Jamaati members, including, but not limited to, assistance with due diligence, cash flow forecasting, and broader financial matters. Another way in which Jamaati businesses have been actively supporting one another is through the Business Mentoring Program, which will soon also be rolled out within our European jurisdiction. This program pairs Ismaili business mentors with entrepreneurs seeking advice. If you are a business seeking guidance or would like to come forward to serve as a mentor, please get in touch. Our partnership with Focus has enabled us to further widen our reach and support our European Jamaats. During the pandemic, we have used our case management system to help newly arrived Murids manage the changing environment and the resulting economic consequences, including understanding government guidance and vocational training in each respective country. We have produced and circulated relevant materials in English, Arabic, and Farsi, as well as webinars which have been hosted on future jobs and starting new businesses. We recognize that the pandemic has not affected everyone equally. Tough times are certainly ahead, particularly for those in the sectors directly impacted by physical distancing, such as the arts and creative industries, travel, retail, and hospitality. Recession also brings opportunity. We would highlight technology, e-commerce, and remote working as growth areas in the economy. Going forward into Q1 2021, the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board will focus on these areas of opportunity and provide the Jamaat with further insight. This period of uncertainty has reminded us of the importance of sound financial management, no matter one's age. Preparing for such times and being prudent is critical and a key ethos that we at the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board adhere to. Since the start of the pandemic, our business finance team has developed the Wise Wallets podcast series, which have covered topics such as government support, mortgages, debt management, consumer credit, and wills and inheritance planning. We have also produced 6-part podcast series on budgeting utilizing external experts and included over 40 simple saving tips, which many of you have seen in the Al-Saha newsletter or on social media. In the coming months, we'll be rolling out programs for students to help them understand how to better manage their finances. For details of all Aga Khan Economic Planning Board programs, we encourage you to visit the.ismaili/UK/AKEPB. On this webpage, you will find a list of resources and programs available. New initiatives are constantly being developed, including updates on core macroeconomic and political trends such as Brexit. Importantly, the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board provides confidential individual case assistance for Jamaati members on any queries they may have regarding personal finance, employment, and business. This is an integral part of the support that we offer. We are committed to helping the Jamaat in the strictest of confidence, and since March, we have helped on more than 150 such cases. Finally, I recall that our Imam highlights the linked nature between our spiritual and material well-being. He has constitutionally appointed economic planning boards in his name to support the Jamaat with its needs. Additionally, Maulana Hazim Imam has emphasized that in these times, It is important that the Jamaat remains united and focused on helping those who will need assistance and handholding. On this basis, I want you to know that we are here to help, and I humbly request that you reach out to me directly or to any member of the board if you require any assistance. Thank you, and Yali Madad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wenn Islam Gott ergeben heißt, im Islam leben und sterben wir alle. Liebe Schwestern und Brüder, Ya Ali Madad. Ich beginne heute meine Rede mit diesen 2 Versen aus dem westöstlichen Divan von Goethe. Denn er beschreibt den Begriff Islam sehr zutreffend, nämlich Gott ergeben. Wir als Muslimen, Alhamdulillah, wir leben mit Hingabe, Taslim, und wir vertrauen Gott, Allah, Tawakkaltu ala Allah. Und wir suchen immer, uns zu verbinden, also die Verbindung, Tawassul. Und besonderes als je zuvor sollten wir uns jetzt daran erinnern und auch uns daran halten. Denn die 2. Welle der Pandemie ist da. Sie bringt Sorge, Unsicherheit. Sie ruft Angst hervor. Und es ist eine ganz besondere, schwierige Zeit für die Menschen. Aber das ist auch eine Zeit, eine Gelegenheit, zu reflektieren, nachzudenken und der inneren Stimme zuzuhören. Es ist auch die Zeit, weil wir mehr Zeit haben, zu lesen, unsere Geschichte lesen. Denn von ihr können wir lernen. Maulana Hazar Imam auf Serat-Konferenz 1976 in Karachi, Pakistan, Folgendes gesagt. Ich zitiere: Das Leben des heiligen Propheten gibt uns alle grundlegenden Richtlinien, die wir benötigen, um das Problem so erfolgreich zu lösen, wie es sich unser menschlicher Verstand und unser Intellekt vorstellen können. Sein Beispiel für Integrität, Loyalität, Ehrlichkeit, Großzügigkeit, sowohl der Mittel als auch der Zeit. Seine Standhaftigkeit in Freundschaft, seine Schlichtheit, seine Weisheit, neue Lösungen für Probleme zu entwickeln, die mit traditionellen Methoden nicht gelöst werden können. Ja, liebe Jamaat, wir haben vor kurzem den Geburtstag von Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gefeiert. Er ist ein Vorbild für uns. Und wir sehen, wie Maulana Hazar Imam einige wichtige Werte für uns hier hervorhebt. Und diese Werte werde ich jetzt anhand Beispiele etwas näher zu erläutern, wie wir in unserem Alltag umsetzen können. Insbesondere in dieser schwierigen Situation. Integrität bedeutet ehrlich und offen sein. Mit sich selbst, mit der Familie, mit dem Jamaat, mit der Regierung, mit Institutionen. Und die können uns helfen, weiterzukommen, weiterzuentwickeln. Und auch bringt diese Tatsache Khair und Barakat. Loyalität. Loyalität bedeutet, dass wir in dieser Situation die Anweisungen der Regierung, unserer Institutionen folgen. Konkrete Beispiele dafür sind Maske tragen, Abstand halten, auf Hygiene achten und die sozialen Kontakte reduzieren. Großzügigkeit ist ein Wert, das es sehr wichtig ist, besonders in dieser Situation. Ich würde an dieser Stelle hier auf Zeit fokussieren und zeigen, wie man das großzügig mit der Zeit umgehen kann, indem man Zeit nimmt. Zeit für sich selbst, Zeit für die Familie, Zeit für die Gesellschaft und auch Zeit für besondere Menschen oder Menschen, die ein kurzes Gespräch vielleicht brauchen. Und dafür soll man Zeit nehmen. Standhaftigkeit in der Freundschaft ist auch ganz wichtig. Und besonders in dieser Situation, dass wir die Freunde immer kontaktieren, einen Anruf tätigen und fragen, wie es ihnen geht. Ob sie unsere Unterstützung brauchen oder auch nicht. Schlichtheit oder Bescheidenheit. Es ist wichtig in dieser Zeit, dass wir mit unseren finanziellen Mitteln ganz sorgsam umgehen und das besorgen oder kaufen, was wir unbedingt brauchen und nicht das Geld einfach so ausgeben. Das ist ganz wichtig. Weisheit. Weisheit, ich würde hier auf eine Sache fokussieren, und zwar, dass wir unsere Konzentration auf die Lösung konzentrieren und nicht auf das Problem. Denn wenn wir auf die möglichen Lösungen für ein Problem konzentrieren, dann setzt Energie frei und wir sind in der Lage, Lösungen zu finden. Ja, liebe Jamaat, wenn wir auf die Basis dieser Werte leben, das verinnerlichen und auch umsetzen, dann können wir oder kann die Angst in Hoffnung, die Probleme in Lösungen, die Herausforderungen in Möglichkeiten und die Passivität in aktives Handeln und Verhalten sich umwandeln. Und daher sollten wir immer wieder aufs Neue uns daran zu erinnern. Wenn das der Fall ist, dann passiert im inneren Raum oder im Inneren des Menschen etwas. Bekommen wir dann eine positive Einstellung. Und diese positive Einstellung kann uns helfen, auch positiv zu bleiben und auch effektiv die Zeit zu nutzen. Allah im Koran sagt, Surah Ar-Ra'd, Ayat 11. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin, hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Wahrlich, Allah wird den Zustand der Menschen nicht ändern, solange, wenn sie sich von ihnen nicht ändern. Daher weiß man, dass wir ein aktives Handeln brauchen. Wir sollten agieren und vor allem, und Alhamdulillah, dass wir als Ismaili von Maulana Hazir Imam immer wieder Anweisungen, Botschaften bekommen, die wir folgen müssen. Und daher können wir unsere innere Einstellung positiv so werden zu lassen. Neulich, am 2. November 2020, Maulana Hazir Imam dem globalen Jamaat eine Botschaft geschickt und aus dieser Botschaft möchte ich einen Teil zitieren. Denn diese Situation, was wir jetzt haben, ist eine vorübergehende Situation und das bleibt nicht immer so. Maulana Hazir Imam sagt, die Arbeit an der Herstellung von Impfstoffen und anderen Formen von Therapien schreitet rasant voran. Und inshallah werden wir in den kommenden Monaten positive Ergebnisse sehen, die zu gegebener Zeit für Jamaat und die Bevölkerung insgesamt von Vorteil sein werden. In diesem Sinne, danke für die Aufmerksamkeit und ja, Limadat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح
المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم صدق الله العظيم.
25 years ago marked the beginning of a new era in the history of our Jamaat. Since 1985, the Ismaili Centre London has helped to shape the identity and outlook of Ismailis both nationally and internationally, giving the Jamaat a permanent home in London. As we look back on 25 years of the Ismaili Centre, we have an opportunity to reflect on what this building has done for the Jamaat in the UK, for the Ismaili community globally, the role it has played in promoting civil society, and what it will, inshallah, do for the future of the Ismaili Jamaat around the world.
The Ismaili community in Britain traces many of its roots to this country's former colonies in Africa and in Asia. Over this past half-century, Ismailis have established themselves as one amongst many immigrant communities. It is not far from this very site in Kensington that a few young Ismaili students and families first gathered to share the experiences of life in post-war London during the Empire's twilight years.
In the early 1950s, the first place of gathering for the Jamaat in London was at 51 Kensington Court. This Jamaat Khana was opened by the late Begum Habibe, the wife of our 48th Imam, on 17th July 1953. In 1957, the Jamaat moved to 35 Palace Gate, which was home to the Jamaat for many years. Aside from being a Jamaat Khana, Palace Gate also provided bed and breakfast accommodation for students arriving from abroad to study in London.
In the late 60s, the Jamaat began to increase with students, visitors, and overseas Ismailis, and the Jamaat Khana facilities began to be stressed. Maulana Hazir Imam felt that we should look for alternate property for Jamaat Khana. In his Farman at Alexandra Palace on 3rd August 1969, where about 2,500 members were present, Maulana Hazir Imam mentioned that he was aware of the need for a bigger Jamaat Khana and that we were already looking for a suitable alternate property.
As the presence of the Ismailis in Britain changed from a handful of adventurous students to an increasingly large, permanently established community, originating from different parts of the Third World, speaking different languages, and with very different economic and educational backgrounds, the leaders and I were faced with the difficult question of determining the steps that we should take to assist the community to establish itself well and definitively in the United Kingdom. We concluded that centers of social and religious life were a condition sine qua non to enable the community to practice its faith, maintain its traditions, and protect its identity.
It was in 1978 that when Hazir Imam first, we had a meeting, the president of the council then and myself, and Hazir Imam explained to us what the project was going to be, and that he wanted a purpose-built, high-profile Jamaat Khana in London for the Jamaat in United Kingdom.
The history of the site of land for the Ismaili Centre can be traced back to the 1860s. 7 houses dubbed Cromwell Gardens were erected on the site in 1867 by John Spicer. In 1937, the site was purchased by the Shakespeare Memorial National Theatre Committee for the purpose of constructing a national theatre.
I suppose that I am here as the next best thing to Shakespeare.
Although the title deeds were presented in 1938 by Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw, the theatre was never to be built on the site. In time, it was realised that the site was too small for the ambitions of a national theatre, and in 1942, the land was exchanged by the National Theatre Committee in favour of a site on the south bank of the Thames. By the time Maulana Hazir Imam had secured the land in the late 1970s for the establishment of the first Ismaili centre in the Western world, it had become a derelict site, hosting a car hire depot and a prefab office. Yet, according to journalist Christopher Long, the land between Thurlow Place and Cromwell Road was arguably the most prominent and prestigious plot of development land in West London. On 6 September 1979, Maulana Hazir Imam and the late Lord Soames, who at the time was the Lord President of the Council and the leader of the House of Lords, laid the foundation for the Ismaili Centre in London.
I sincerely believe that when this centre is completed, it will be, both by its presence and the function it fulfills, an important addition to the institutions of London, a source of pride to all who took part in its creation, and a pledge and token of understanding between East and West.
Speaking at the ceremony, Lord Soames commended the Jamaat in the United Kingdom for being contributing citizens of society.
And wherever they have settled, they have made themselves most welcome. Indeed, in many ways and in many instances, they have set an example. The Ismailis are essentially contributors who seek to enrich the social structure in which they live. The centre, of which this is to be the cornerstone, will fill a long-felt need by the 25,000 or so Ismaili people in this country, for it will provide both a place of prayer and devotion, and also a meeting place with many facilities of a pleasurable character.
Plans for the new building were carefully drawn up with Maulana Hazar Imam and his brother Prince Amin closely involved every step of the way.
I think everybody would only ever and could only ever settle for the highest standards. I think also it was realized from His Highness's involvement and Prince Amin's involvement that it had to be something which was going to meet their very, very high standards. Indeed, quite a number of the designs, the features that you see dotted around the building, they would have been created in isolation, and Prince Amin or His Highness would come in especially to review that relationship between the blue and the white lines and give a positive to go ahead and construct and design in that manner.
I must say that it was dearly due to Hazar Imam that this building has turned out to be what it is. His personal involvement was quite extensive. We had 39 meetings over a period of 5 years with Hazar Imam and Prince Amin. He would literally look at the size of the window, the shape of the window, the doorknobs, the calligraphy, the lighting system. He used to go in great detail in every aspect of construction. And Prince Amin was involved in the interior designing.
The high-profile location of the centre presented a unique challenge to the architects, the Kasson Konda partnership. Lead architect, the late Neville Konda and his team, had to design a building that would meet the community's objectives, as well as blend in harmoniously with the distinguished public and historic buildings in its vicinity.
Another factor in the design is, of course, that here were we, a firm of Western English architects, working directly with His Highness the Aga Khan, trying to evolve an architecture without, as it were, being Walt Disney about it, putting a little dome here or a little something there on an architecture which one didn't deeply understand. And this was only done by working very closely in a long learning process by people who were deeply involved in that kind of culture.
To help ensure this Islamic mood, German Muslim Karl Schlaminger was commissioned for the interior design, and renowned Pakistani artist, the late Gulji, was asked to create a number of portraits and murals for the building. By 1984, the building was ready to be used. Maulana Hazar Imam sent a message to the UK Jamaat in which he said, "During my Silver Jubilee Darbar in London, I said that the Ismaili Centre is a symbol of the status that I desire for my Jamaat in the United Kingdom. It is you who, inshallah, will translate my aspiration into reality in everything which touches your everyday lives, and by the way in which you think about, use, and work within this new center.
We moved here on the 10th of April to open the Jamaat Khana. It was very happy and historical occasion because Jamaat appreciated that this is the first time in central London we have a Ismaili center on a very prestigious location.
In his speech at the foundation ceremony of the Ismaili Center Dubai, Maulana Hazar Imam reminds us that the Jamaat Khana is one of many forms of spaces of gathering in the Muslim world.
For many centuries, a prominent feature of the Muslim religious landscape has been the variety of spaces of gathering coexisting harmoniously with the masjid, which in itself has accommodated a range of diverse institutional spaces for educational, social, and reflective purposes. Historically serving communities of different interpretations and spiritual affiliations, these spaces have retained their cultural nomenclatures and characteristics, from Ribat and Zawiya to Khanaka and Jamaat Khana. The congregational space incorporated within the Ismaili Center belongs to the historic category of Jamaat Khana, an institutional category that also serves a number of sister Sunni and Shia communities in their respective contexts in many parts of the world. Here, it will be a space reserved for traditions and practices specific to the Shia Ismaili Tariqa of Islam.
On 24th April 1985, the Ismaili Center, London, a Silver Jubilee project, was officially opened by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in the presence of Maulana Hazar Imam and members of his family.
London itself is enhanced by the construction of the new centre, for which we are all most grateful to His Highness the Aga Khan. It's a splendid contribution to the architecture of London, fitting in easily with the other fine buildings of South Kensington, yet having its own distinctive and beautiful character. It's a monument to the determination of your community to play a full part in the life of our society, while at the same time retaining their own identity and independence. As I believe a great Islamic poet of the 19th century, Muhammad Iqbal, said, "For the individual to be bound to society is a blessing. It is in a community that his work is perfected." This new center is a splendid testament to the words of the poet, to the vitality of the Ismaili community here. And it is in that spirit and with great pleasure that I now formally declare the Ismaili Center open.
invocation, central to the Muslim faith, greets visitors as they enter the Ismaili Centre in London. Water ripples from a 7-sided marble fountain, drowning out the sounds of central London traffic outside.
You walk towards this building in the evening after your day at work, and these doors suddenly mark the space between what is outside and something very different which is inside. You're greeted by a space which is not about hustle and bustle. It's a space which is very much about making an inner shift as well as an external shift. So there is an external shift where you're walking from the outside to the space, but also internally you're met with a space which is very much about serenity, very much about tranquility, very much about touching one's inner self, which is something that the reality is that, you know, in London's everyday, very busy lifestyle, you don't get a lot of time to do.
The centre soon became a hub for the community to congregate, pray and socialise. Whether it be local events for the Darkhana Jamaat, national or international events, gatherings of seniors, of youth, of professionals, of volunteers, meetings, exhibitions, presentations or seminars, the various spaces in the centre continue to provide an environment of community, togetherness and unity for the UK Jamaat. An entire generation in the Jamaat today have grown up with the Ismaili Centre. In many cases, the building has played a central role in their lives, a space where they carry out voluntary work, where they meet friends and socialise, as well as a space where they carry out their religious obligations.
The Ismaili Centre is my local Jamaat Khana. I've been coming here since I was born, and it really is a second home for me. It's somewhere that I come to pray, obviously, but also to develop my understanding of my culture, of my heritage, to learn more, like today visiting the roof gardens, understanding how that came to be, the exhibitions that are shown here. It's also somewhere that I come to reflect, to contemplate, to nurture my spirituality.
And also, of course, which makes a tremendous impact on people, and that is the volunteer spirit within the community itself, from the younger volunteer corps members up to more senior level and up to council level and indeed even president. That at the end of the day, everybody is a volunteer. And if you are asked to come in and do the cloakroom, and if you're asked to do the shoes, etc., if in fact you've got the time to do it, it always seemed to me that people would jump at the opportunity. I don't think necessarily that the years have dimmed that enthusiasm. It has been a strong ethos of the community.
If you came into this building of a day, you'd see the Safai ladies cleaning the building, or you might see our volunteers working in Jamaat Khana, or you would see volunteers working in the shoe area or the court area, committee members working throughout the building. And in every corner of the building, you see a community living its values of seva, of compassion, of unity, of brotherhood. And that is not just aspirational, that's quite inspirational. This building has its own heartbeat, and it's really quite special to watch.
One of the greatest testaments of this voluntary spirit, and one of the fondest memories for the Jamaat, is the 1994 UK Padramani, when Maulana Hazar Imam visited the Ismaili Centre daily for various religious ceremonies and meetings. The Ismaili Center has also played an important role for the global Jamaat, with numerous institutions using the building to host meetings, conferences, and presentations. The building, and as importantly the volunteers, have helped to ensure that events run as efficiently and effectively as possible. The Ismaili Center has also become a must-see for any Ismailis travelling through London.
This building was a Silver Jubilee project.
For many in the Jamaat, it is seen as a part of the contemporary history of the community.
It's a breathtaking building, just the different aspects of it is very inspiring, I would say. I mean, it's just so different from what you see in a Jamaat Khana that I go to. And then you come here and you see this, it's a whole different take on it.
Following on from the success of the 1994 Padramani, Maulana Hazrat Imam blessed the Jamaat by celebrating his 40th Imamat Day at the Ismaili Center. In October 2003, the Institute of Ismaili Studies hosted a conference on the Holy Quran at the center to mark its 25th anniversary.
The venue of this international colloquium is particularly appropriate. In its architectural design and definition of broader functions, the Ismaili Centre in London, like its counterparts in other countries, has been conceived in a mood of dialogue, of humility, of friendship, and of harmony. These centres reflect a commitment to permeate excellence of endeavour in the realms of the intellect and the spirit.
It is this commitment that has also led the building to become an important space for civil society.
We took the decision to begin using the centre in a much more proactive way. We threw it open then, not only for our own events, but for other organisations that were sympathetic to ours in some way to use the centre for themselves.
Faith groups, political parties, interfaith organisations, volunteer groups, and a whole host of other bodies use the Ismaili Center for meetings and conferences. The annual Milad-e-Nabi address and regular Ismaili Center lecture series have been a cornerstone of the center's activities. The lectures have featured an impressive list of speakers, including authors, politicians, academics, and civil society leaders.
I'm delighted to be in this really wonderful space, which this morning I toured and felt the silence and the reverberation of something that is very special right here in the heart of London on Cromwell Road. I could feel my blood running in my veins, it was so silent. And it's a very great privilege in the center of a great metropolis.
One of the great benefits of this building is that it's allowed us to really develop a whole series of events that we've put on to promote and develop our own culture. We've run here exhibitions, we've run here seminars, we've had plays, we've had musical concerts, and these are all events that promote our culture, but it's a culture that we're very proud to share with others. And part of what the building allows us to do is to showcase that culture.
What is this Seymour?
This culture is displayed through numerous events, including 2 impressive theatrical productions held at the Ismaili Center in the 1990s, the Conference of the Birds, and later the Island of Animals, based on a fable of the Ikhwan al-Safa.
We're situated here